Hello, and welcome to the Empowerography Podcast. This is a platform created for women's voices to be heard and a place to share their stories, journeys, and successes with the world for the purpose of helping other women who might be on similar journeys. We are empowering women one episode at a time. I'm your host, Brad Walsh, so kick back, grab one of your favorite beverages, and enjoy the stories. Are you an author, speaker, coach, or entrepreneur building a brand in today's very crowded marketplace? How do you stand out? Join me on September 27th and share 97 minutes of your time for just $97 and learn how to empower your brand message and shine as a guest on podcasts. iHeart's doing it. Spotify's doing it. You should do it too. Join me and spend 97 minutes of your time for just $97. You can find the registry link in the show notes. Hope to see you there. Hello there, Brad Walsh here, your host of the Empowerography Podcast. Today, my guest is Donita Volkwijn. She is an opera singer, a philanthropist, and the Senior Director of Member Engagement at Philanthropy New York. How are you, Donita? It is an absolute pleasure to have you here. I'm so excited.
I'm really thrilled as well. I love talking to you. I love these conversations. I think it's another way for us to connect with our humanity.
Absolutely. I love it. So with that being said, let's jump in and get started. So I want to dive right into the whole world of performing arts first and your career as an opera singer. When did you start singing opera and what sparked your initial interest in opera singing, and how did that passion evolve into a career when you were doing that? Like, how did you get into it all?
I think about this often because it was like a series of fortunate events. I'd always sung. My mom says when I was like 4-ish, I would line up my toys and I'd sing to them. Not sure exactly what I was singing, but I was singing them. And then when I was, I think 14 or so, my parents arranged for me to have a few vocal lessons with someone in the area. And that lasted for about 6 months. And with teenagers, you get. And so I sang in choir through high school. Yeah. And then I went to Germany my 11th grade year. And we had choir as well. And this was the first time my identity was really tested because I was always known as the smart kid in the U.S. schools. And I didn't know German going into high school and they took a month-long course. Yeah. And then got thrown into 11 classes at the gymnasium. Wow. Yeah. And so there was a choir and I'm like, if I can't do physics, I passed physics, biology. I failed biology because I didn't know the words. If I can't do biology, let me try singing. And in the United States, I sang a lot of like pop songs with my choir. And in Germany, I was introduced to, my parents always listened to orchestral music at home, but not a lot of opera. Okay. And so we sang Bach, Romberg, Mozart, and it just was really wonderful. And I had to apply to college while I was in Germany. It was a lot. And I was just like, yeah, wherever I apply, I'm going to get in because high immigrant, I don't know the rules, right? So my parents were like, you can't just apply to one place. You have to apply to 2. So I applied to 2 and went to Oberlin for my undergrad. Started off as a German literature major and then added vocal performance for my second semester. So I was doing a double degree at the time. So like who does that? That's not normal. But I'm like, all right, yeah, let me just try this opera singing thing. And it was wonderful. It was it was beautiful to discover my voice and then to be continuing to discover my voice in different realms afterwards.
And now opera requires immense dedication and training. What has been the most challenging, or what was the most challenging aspect of your journey, and how did you overcome it?
Oh, yeah, there were a lot of challenging aspects. I think part of it was trying to be, opera is for the elite. And I'll just be honest about that. Yeah. And taking lessons at the same time as trying to pay back my student loans. And I was with this one opera company when I first moved to New York. We practiced for 3 months at night. So I'd do my day job, get on the D train, go all the way to the Bronx, and then sing, and then come back home at around 11 get back up and do the whole thing the next day. Like finding the time and the space to rehearse was, I think, the biggest challenge initially. And then it was finding teachers and coaches who understood the way I sang and were able to coach and teach my way of singing out of me.
Okay. Now, it also involves incredible technical skills. So how did you maintain and improve, or how do you maintain and improve your vocal technique, and what practices are essential for you to your routine?
So when I first moved to New York, I just heard stories of people being just open. So on the way to auditions, I'd be in the tunnel coming out of the subway station, and I would just do some vocal warm-ups. And often these were Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning. There's nobody in the subway station. And here I am just like, what? And I realized that, oh, wait, that's not it. But I would sing in my apartment. I would practice, I would rehearse, and I'm an opera singer, so I'm loud. And so I would not rehearse outside of 10 to 7.
Okay.
Right. And then I would only rehearse for an hour or so a day because...
How many neighbors did you piss off?
Do you know, actually, I thought I was pissing them all off. And It turns out that they would actually look forward to it. Because New York apartments, most of them are a lot of them are bricks. So there's a lot of insulation. I wouldn't do it in my apartment now because there's a courtyard right outside my window and everybody would hear me all the time. And I'm now much more aware of the consequences of being thrown out of an apartment because of singing. So you have to find rehearsal halls. There are a lot of rehearsal rooms on the west side of Manhattan, but I live in Brooklyn and I work on the east side. And getting east to west if you lived in New York, it can be a trial. So you figured it out. That's what you did. You figured it out.
You had no choice. You had to.
And I think part of it is that it then helped me understand that I could warm up my voice pretty quickly. I can warm up my voice in about 10 to 15 minutes to the place where I can test things and how are we feeling today? And it was because of, all right, I don't have enough money to rent a room for an entire hour. So let me rent it for half an hour, warm up a little bit, and then sing through my stuff.
Wow. Can you share the story of your first major breakthrough in the opera world? How did it feel for you and what impact did that have on your career?
I still remember this. I got into the Marilla Opera program at San Francisco, and it was the beginning. And then I became an Adler Fellow with the San Francisco Opera, which is a 2-year program. You get a salary, you're understudying. I covered Renee Fleming, and just saying that is ridiculous because she did Louise in Charpentier's Louise one time, and I was her understudy. And she was like, Donita, I'm trying to get you one of these performances. And no, I have asked for all of my friends around the world to do a prayer, mantra, whatever they believe in to keep you coming. Because if I come out on stage after somebody says, and unfortunately, Renee Fleming will not be singing today. Instead, no name, Volkwijn over here is coming. It would not have been an ideal thing. So when I found out that that I was getting to be an Adler Fellow, which meant 2 years of me being a singer, I didn't have to do a daytime job. That was my job. Getting paid, and I think at that point it was $33,000 a year, I can't even describe how that felt to be. So for so many years, I've been figuring shit out. And for once, I just went to work and worked on my voice, worked on my singing. It's where I grew up as an opera singer.
Incredible. How do you believe opera can influence culture and society? As you said, it's really for the elites. Are there specific performances or productions that you feel may have made a significant impact?
I should amend and say that opera is for elites in the United States. Right. In Europe, everybody goes to the opera or to the symphony because it's state subsidized. And I can get on a soapbox about that. Because I believe that even if you are not, I have seen the power of going into schools. Like when we were dark in San Francisco, February, we would go and do school shows. Okay. And you have not lived until you hit something above the staff and 600 children immediately put their hands to their ears as in, oh, make it stop, make it stop. Because we're loud. And a lot of times we'd be in cafeterias or gyms where the acoustics were not necessarily built for operatic voices, right?
Yeah.
But the number of children who would come up after me and after the performances, and they were like an hour long, they would come up to us and be like, I'm going to be an opera singer. And for the next 15 minutes, even for 15 minutes, that's what they were going to do. I think being that close to something that really, it's like a cello or an oboe when you feel those vibrations like in your body. I remember you asked about significant performances. There's a Swedish man, Håkan Högegård, who sang, it was the 7 songs of Strauss, 7 early songs of Strauss. And I remember being in the auditorium. This was when I was an undergrad. And he'd done these so many times. So he knew where he could pull back, where he could give more. And I had to hold on to the sides of my seat because I felt like I couldn't contain everything that was being put into my person. And I felt like I wanted to stand up. And I don't know what I would have done standing up, but I was like, don't stand up. Don't stand up because people think you're so weird. And there have been moments like that when I remember sitting in the rehearsal hall when we were doing Rosenkavalier. I had nothing to do with the production. And I just sat and listened. I'm like, this is my job. Where just in practice, the Lucia would sing this piece and release a note in the most delicate and beautiful way when you just got that tapering off. Oh my God, I'm getting chills right now thinking about that. Like how many people, when they're doing their job, have that moment of, I'm getting goosebumps right now. And that's what I have been aspiring to, is recreating those goosebumps wherever I am, what I'm doing.
Beautiful. How has you being an opera singer shaped your personal growth and worldview?
So I have realized that I'm an introvert preference. And when I'm singing on stage, people are like, how can you perform if you're that introverted? I'm like, because I'm by myself. It's me and the conductor, but it's also bigger than that. I am responsible for my own voice. I'm responsible for how I show up on stage, but everybody contributes to it a lot. So understanding that even though I was on stage with 60 people, the orchestra had 60 folks in it, conductor, audience of 3,000, I could still be in my little world is one thing that I noticed. The other is the power of connecting with people on a level that doesn't require knowledge of somebody else's language, doesn't require knowledge of that person beforehand. It's just you touched my being in a way that I have never experienced before. I've not known I've never heard this. I've never seen this. I've never experienced this. And watching people leave with their eyes just wide and knowing that they would probably go home and not necessarily know what just happened to them, but they were able to, it was a moment in their lives that I think that they would remember a long time. And so the worldview part of it is, I love speaking different languages poorly, but if somebody doesn't understand me and I just sing something, automatically things just change.
It's a universal language.
It is. And it means that I have something else at my disposal to connect with folks. It has also shaped my being able to read an audience very quickly, because if you can reach 600 kids in a cafeteria or a gymnasium and watch their little eyes sparkle and then have them all asking questions, and we'd be singing in German, French, Italian, sometimes Russian. They didn't know what we were singing, but they understood the stories. They understood. We would have little duets or little trios. What do you think was going on? Oh, somebody was sad and the other person was comforting her. Right? How magnificent is that? Yeah. And being able to, but if you didn't perform from your, like the depth of your being, those children would get rowdy. They wouldn't be paying attention because they know that there was something false going on. So now whenever I have to facilitate or when I'm singing, there's a way that I check in with the audience to make sure that I'm like, I had a geometry teacher in the 9th grade who believed that people's attention span was their age plus 1. So every 15 minutes, she'd either flick the lights or she'd be like, hey, and we'd like shock into being, right? When people think they know it's going to happen, they tune out. But if you surprise them every once in a while, they're like, oh, hey, wait, this I didn't expect. What's happening? Oh, hey, what's happening?
Engagement.
Engagement. Yeah.
That is powerful. That's a very powerful tool to be able to do that, especially with kids who, as we know, predominantly have the attention span of a gnat.
Yeah. You don't send kids into the ring cycle where the shortest one is 4 hours. No, that's dumb. The importance of prep, if the teacher had played a few of the pieces before we came in, the kids would be like, oh gosh, I recognize that.
Yeah.
And we could, even if they didn't, we could still get them, but it was so much easier if they knew a little bit before coming in.
For sure.
That's another lesson that I've taken with me. Who's my audience? If I am singing for 5-year-olds, I will not be singing certain arias. If I'm singing for 50-year-olds, I will be singing something different. So knowing your audience, engaging with them, feeling that energy of the sum being greater than the parts.
Beautiful. What are your biggest inspirations and heroes in the opera world and beyond? How have they influenced your path?
Jesse Norman, Leontine Price, Kathleen Battle, Marian Anderson. These are women who were singing opera. Leontine Price was doing productions at the Met and was having to face racism. She was the principal singer in the performances and still trying to fight her way through the racism. And the undeniable beauty and command that she had of her voice was able to push some of that aside. But I wonder the toll that it's taken on these women. Jesse Norman, that's how I first fell in love with opera. When I went to Oberlin, one of my housemates flatmates really loved opera. And she was like, here, listen to this. And she put on the 4 last songs of Strauss. And no idea what she was saying, never heard of her, never heard of the conductor, hadn't heard these pieces before. And I just started crying. I was like, well, what's happening here? And I thought, wow, if I could make one person feel the way I just felt, then I think that would be a life well lived. And so these women who had to fight against, oh, you don't look like an opera singer. We don't really have, trying to put a blonde wig on a black woman just because the character is supposed to be a blonde. Let's think about that for a moment, shall we? Let's do that.
Yeah.
But they forged the path for me and for others, and I am eternally grateful to them.
That's a beautiful gift to give to somebody, to impact their lives, to emote, to create that emotive feeling in another human being is such an incredible gift. It's beautiful. And art and music has the power to do that. And it's incredible power.
Oh my God. I will sometimes see a piece of art and again, I'll be like, why am I crying? Mm-hmm. Or why am I suddenly so joyful? What is happening? And I'll just be like, wow, just the care with which somebody put a brush stroke in, or how to create a sculpture that is more lifelike than some of the people I know. Mm-hmm. Well,
It is. It's, as a photographer, that's one of my favorite things is when I would exhibit my art at art shows and have people walk up and engaging with them about and asking them, what's the story in this image? I want to hear your interpretation of what you're seeing in front of you. To be able to do that. And then I can remember selling my very first piece to someone and that incredible thought, my mind was blown as this person is going to hang something that I created in their living room for people to see. It's like, how fucking incredible is that? It's just amazing to know that you're able to have that kind of an impact and reach someone in that way and speak to their soul through something that you've created or something that you create. You with your voice, me with a camera. There's so much beauty and power in that.
Oh my gosh. Again, chills. Yes, I have them because it is, but it also opens your world too.
Yeah.
Because, wow, if I can reach people with this voice or with this photograph, the world is my oyster because I'm going to look now for people who do that for me.
Yes.
Because what is the point of living if you don't have those moments of just utter beauty?
Yeah.
And it has also made me realize that, have you ever read the book, The War of Art?
No, I've heard of it. And
wish I could tell you the author, but it's the same person who wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance. It's this very small volume, and it's mostly it was intended for writers, but it's for all artists. And like one chapter is sometimes half a page. So it's a very easy read, but then it's a not easy read because you have to think about stuff.
Yeah.
And he posits that the difference between an amateur and a professional is that the professional knows when to stop. And the first time I read that, I was offended. I was like, I will never not work on my art.
Yeah.
I will never just be complacent. Then I realized how much effort I put into wondering what other people were thinking of how I was performing. I would go into auditions and I would relive everything and try and remember their expressions and the questions and all of that. And one day I had an audition and I just sang and left. And I went, but am I not? What? And I realized, maybe I'm a professional. Maybe I did my job. And it's now up to them.
Yes, the rest
to
is
do
up to
their
them.
job.
Yeah.
And so when the fact that you were able to let that photograph go into someone else's home, for them to interpret the way they wanted it to, not the way you necessarily intended to do it. Like you did your job.
Yeah.
And now it's their job. That's such a hard lesson to learn.
It is, for sure. Letting go. Absolutely.
The
Art of War?
The War of Art.
The War of Art.
Yeah.
There is a book, The Art of War.
The Art
of
War. That's unto your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yes, The War of Art. Okay, I'll definitely have to
It'll make you have some feelings.
I will definitely check that out. Love it. What advice would you give to aspiring opera singers and who look up to you or dream of following in your footsteps or want to pursue a career as an opera singer?
I'll be honest. The opera world has changed significantly. Our audience is dying because they're getting older.
Right.
And the amount of time and effort that's necessary to put into creating an audience is just not as present anymore. And if you are doing art for art's sake, if you're just singing for singing's sake, it doesn't matter if you have an audience or not. But if you are trying to make a living as an opera singer, you have to understand that the audiences are different these days. So my advice would be to continue training your voice, but don't expect opera in its traditional form to be able to support you. There are not very many singers in the US right now who can support themselves as opera singers full time. The big ones with the names, absolutely. But it used to be like there were so many small opera companies around the States that you could, as long as you got 4 or 5 gigs a year, you were able to have a living and you were able to practice. You were able to practice in a stage that was not the Met, that was not San Francisco, that was not Houston. And those opportunities are fewer and further between. I would say, see if you can take your talents and diversify.
Figure out another way to make it work.
Or understand how much of a living you're going to make going just into opera and how much debt you'll go into before you can actually get a gig that will pay off that debt.
So you can recoup some of that money.
Yeah. Any kids who would come out of Juilliard with $200,000 in debt and they come out at the age of 24, unless you are a wunderkind of some kind, you are not recouping that $200,000
anytime soon.
No. So you got $200,000 hanging over your head while you are getting paid. Like I said, the first gig when I was going up to the Bronx. Yeah. 3 months of work at night, $200.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was better. A lot of my friends had to pay to sing. Be like, hey, we're putting on this opera for $150. You can be
pay to play.
Pay to
wow.
play.
Holy crow.
Yeah. So I was like, $200. Wow. I am doing this right.
Yeah. Ignorance is bliss, right?
Oh gosh. Yes. I watch the kids hustle these days and I'm like, if I'd had one of my friends had inherited about $14,000 right before she started coming to New York and doing like the audition circuit and everything. And I always wondered, would my life have changed if I had $14,000 to do my lessons, to do my coachings, to work part-time instead of full-time?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to live my life without regrets. Which
is key and important.
Yeah.
It's so important for sure. I want to jump in now and tie in the work you do as a philanthropist, Donita. How did your journey into philanthropy work begin?
It's another one of those stories where you're just like, what? How? So at the very beginning of my singing career, I worked for a temp agency as well. Okay. And I was put with bankers and lawyers, lovely humans. But at some point, usually around the 3-month mark, I'd be like, I am helping people with more money than Croesus to get more money. And I am still here struggling. And so it started to hurt my soul. And I've been singing professionally, I think, for about 10, 15 years. And Enron happened, the recession happened, and opera companies just started closing. A number of my gigs got canceled. And I found myself back in the States. And I went to go find the same temp agency then they'd also suffered from the recession. But this man was the nicest man in the whole wide world. And he put me with the first company. And I kept waiting for that moment of, ew.
It's time to go.
And I was like, oh, wait, these folks are trying to put money into the hands of people who don't have a lot of money. Oh,
what a concept.
And I didn't know anything about philanthropy. I'd gotten a few grants as a person, right, but I didn't know about philanthropy writ large. So initially I was like, okay, let me see if they might be interested in hiring me for full time until my next big gig. About 4 years later, I'm like, oh, is this my next big gig? And had I known that at the beginning, I'm not sure that I would have followed through, because it took a while to get to the point where I was able to feel the magic that I had felt on the stage of the opera. And the freedom that comes along with being an artist. Like, you do a gig and then you don't have anything until your next gig. Yep. Which is great in some instances, but then you don't know, is my money supposed to last for 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years?
Yep.
So every outing is a study in frugality, right?
Yes, for sure.
Having a steady paycheck it's seductive. It is seductive.
For sure.
And so for the first, I would say 5 years, I was just doing a job. I was just trying to get that paycheck and able to live. And then I started to see some of the possibilities, and that was pretty amazing as well. Terrifying, but amazing.
Can you tell us a little bit about the work you do as the Senior Director of Member Engagement for Philanthropy New York, and what Philanthropy New York is all about and the focus of the work they do as an organization?
Oh, yeah. I love to talk about PNY. We call it Philanthropy New York. Philanthropy New York is a member organization. So our membership is made of a lot of foundations in the New York City metro area. Okay. Because of the pandemic, a lot of the programming has gone online. So we are reaching out. Some of our programming is going out further to folks. And bottom line is that we are trying to create an ecosystem in which philanthropy is democratic, sustainable, and equitable. We have about 275 organizational members, which is like 4,500 people. And it's been around for a while. So I feel like the influence that Philanthropy New York has on the philanthropic sector is really important. And knowing that I get to be a part of that, get to be a part of shaping how we look at philanthropy, how we think about it, because philanthropy is not problematic. So finding places for our values are leading, learning, community, and equity. And everything that Philanthropy New York does is done through the lens of racial equity. And it was chosen because of all of the force multipliers. Race seems to be the one that, like, there are many people with many different struggles. But if you are a person of color and have that struggle, it multiplies the force.
Amplifies it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's why we lead with racial equity.
Can you share an example of a philanthropic initiative that you've been involved with that has had a profound impact on individuals or communities?
Yeah, it was profound to me, and I think it was profound to people in the room. But it speaks to a wider sector of philanthropy. I remember we do site visits for our grantees. So when you have someone who is applying for funding and at my first job, we worked with the donors. So the donors would come to us and say, hey, can you help us do some grants in education or arts or medical research or something like that?
Right.
But we would go on site visits for some of the grantees to see what was happening. And I remember doing a site visit in the Bronx, and the person who was working with me from my organization was a white woman, and the donor was a white woman. And I remember sitting behind the table with all of the white ladies, with a room full of young people of color. And the weight I felt on me, it was a good weight, right? Because I'm not sure that they had ever seen a person who looked like them on the other side of the table. And so I think that lived with me. And it's one of the reasons that I love working at Philanthropy New York, because we are trying to get more people of color, people who wouldn't necessarily fit the mold of what people think of as philanthropists, trying to get them into the sector, because that's how we change. That's how we transform. Philanthropy has a troubled history. A lot of money coming from philanthropy was taken off of the backs of marginalized communities.
Right.
And so who better to ask the big questions than people from those communities that have been overlooked or robbed or been under attack.
Yeah. And how was that whole thing received? Like, how were those white women perceived, and how did they come out of that situation feeling? Do you remember?
I'm not sure that they noticed. I think my colleague noticed over time.
Right.
And it was, she would ask me to speak more so that they would know that I was not just there as somebody to take notes or something like that I was one of the decision makers in there as well. I think for some donors, it's hard to see people who don't look like them, helping them understand where their money should go.
For sure. How has your experience as an opera singer prepared you for the emotional and logistical challenges of philanthropic work?
Oh, it did and it didn't. As an opera singer, as an artist, you're taught to have access to your emotions as quickly as possible. You meet people the first day of rehearsal, and the next day you're in a love scene with them, or you're being killed by them, or something really big is happening. And so you have to access your emotions immediately. Sometimes doesn't go over so well in the workplace, if you can imagine.
Yes.
However, I do think working in philanthropy, given what's out there in the world right now, if you're not angry at least once a day, are you really doing your job?
Yeah.
I think anger has been socialized out of the workplace in the United States. And I think the bad anger should be out, but there is good anger that comes too, and good moments of being overwhelmed by what is trying to serve the communities that we do. And you work so hard to get the grants out to folks. And then a natural disaster comes along, or a political shift or something, and you have to start from the beginning. And I get emotional about that. But honestly, it's also being an artist for over a decade has really shaped how I think. My brain was left unencumbered. And I'm so grateful for that, because as long as I was able to perform and to sing, I was the master of my own brain and my own thinking. And I have met other people whose brains are similar to mine, but have been fenced in by the work that they do. I think what opera did for me was it grew some synapses that allowed me to make connections that other people don't necessarily make.
Yeah. And that's beautiful and helpful in life, not just in career, but in life as well.
There's another book called Sense Making by Christian Maetsberg. He's a Danish writer. And he talks about what the lack of humanities is on our society. There are not a lot of people who are going into straight humanities in their studies any longer. It's all about the MBA. It's about business. It's about management, project management, all of those things. And at the time he wrote this, 90% of the CEOs in Fortune 500 companies had humanities degrees. And it's because if you're following a template, an MBA is a really great thing to have.
Yeah.
And I'm not busting on MBAs. I have some of my best friends are MBAs. But in order to steer an entire organization or an entire sector or anything, you have to be able to make some leaps. And you have to be able to connect some dots that other people aren't seeing.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering how it's going to show up as we have fewer and fewer philosophers and singers and dancers out there in the world, what that's going to do.
It's an interesting thought. What are some of the most valuable lessons you've learned about humanity through your philanthropic work and opera?
Well, everybody's story matters.
Everybody has a story.
Everybody has a story. Sometimes they don't. In telling your stories, in sharing your stories, you find those moments again of connection, of living in this world and making sure that you are going through it, not only trying not to do harm, but also to leave joy in your wake.
Stories provide relatability.
Yep.
It's how we connect with one another. And we do. We all have a story, and people need to remember that. Because I hear so many women that I speak with, I don't have a story. Yes, you actually do. Everybody does. And you need to tell that story because it will undoubtedly impact another human being's life.
Yeah.
And when you share your story, it's a permission slip for others to do the same.
Oh, my word. Yeah. If you let someone, I'm not saying go out and immediately share your deepest, darkest secrets. No. But I'm saying that if there are moments where you can increase your vulnerability because you've shored up yourself enough that you can do it, it opens up an avenue for others to share their vulnerabilities as well. 100%. And when that happens, you become more than just a number.
Yeah.
You become somebody with a face. I am not sure that people's minds have actually ever been changed just by numbers. I'm sure that the bankers out there and the finance folk will disagree heavily. But when you are making decisions about your own humanity and that of others around it, it is that one person's story that sticks out. It is that it disaggregates the data so that people are not seen as a monolith. They're not seen as women of color or white men or whatever.
As human beings. That's where we need to get to. Enough of this labels, bullshit, and all the other crap. We need to just see each other as humans. Color doesn't matter. I think back to when I was a kid. We had friends of all colors and races. We didn't see color. We just, hey, this is my friend, so-and-so, whatever their name was. Color didn't play into it whatsoever, or race didn't play into it. It's just, this is my friend. That's it.
From the other aspect of it, race played into my life very heavily. Even when my friends would be like, oh, this is Donita. I've had people be like, oh, you're not Black. And I have gotten gigs. I have the same show. In one state, I would be too white. And in another state, I'd be too Black to sing the same role. So even if other people didn't see my color, the casting directors, certainly my ability to, like when there are two people doing an audition, you're like, everybody's on an even playing field. Everybody's doing it. For me, a lot of those auditions were a one-time shot. I had no other resources to fall back on to come. I would often get, come back next year. We really love you. And I'm like, I don't have the resources to come back next year.
Yeah.
Whereas some of my friends would be like, oh, great, this is wonderful. And then they would plan a year of getting ready for something. I couldn't do the same thing.
Yeah.
Not to say that my privilege isn't written all over me, but I think that expression of colorblindness does minimize, I think, all of the things that happened to me and others because of the color of my skin.
Yeah, for sure. That's understandable. It's just to say, though, we need to come together as humans. That's it.
Absolutely.
100%. In what ways do you believe art and philanthropy intersect and can work together to create social change?
They're the same thing, really, right? There is a science to grant making, but a lot of it is art as well. Understanding this grassroots organization that doesn't know how to put together a business plan, but has come from the community, and the community has seen a need. In order to recognize the power of that grassroots organization, you have to be not looking at numbers and not looking at whether or not they've got a structure that fits into what philanthropy is asking it to be. And I think that's changing a lot as well, as there's a role for the blue chip organizations that get $1 million a year over and over, because there has to be some continuity as we're doing this work. But finding the people who think differently, that's how we're going to get ourselves out of some of the messes we've gotten ourselves into.
For sure. Absolutely. What legacy do you hope to leave behind through your contributions to both the arts and philanthropy?
I figured out a long time ago that I am not going to change the world. What I have figured out, though, is that I can create networks that eventually can. If I connect with other people who look at the narrative in the way that I do as well, and we teach and learn together, we're creating not just one flash in the pan of that charismatic leader, and there's a place for them as well. Yeah. But knowing, like, my best feeling is, as a knowledge manager, as a conversational leader, if I work myself out of a job, it means that I'm leaving behind a sustainable community. And I think I just remember thinking on the stage when somebody has come to me with the most beautiful way they've ever sung. There's an energy that gets left behind. And I walk onto that stage, and I'm like, oh, you left this. Let me show you what I can do. And it just continues. And then you've got this entire connection, stage, audience, pit, chorus. Everybody is connected because you're showing up doing the very best that you can. With philanthropy, it's the same amount. It's the same thing. When we show up in our best possible person, we inspire others to get to step up to who they are as well, which means that I don't have to carry the whole burden. You don't have to carry the whole burden. Joe over there doesn't have to carry it. We share it, and sometimes my burden gets held by somebody else, and I hold somebody else's burden just because it's different, and I can use different muscles to hold it and give those other muscles a rest.
It's a collective effort.
Yeah. Yeah. That was woo.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Donita, what do you think your unique skill set or superpower is that's helped you become successful?
I am a dot connector, as I mentioned. Sometimes those dots are not visible to others. So I have been learning to make some of those dots visible to others. I think as an immigrant, as someone who is mostly introverted, I have what I call my feelers that go out into a community, into a thing that listens to the conversations that are not happening on the surface. It took me a really long time to realize that, because I would then answer that conversation and people would look at me like, what are you doing? What are you thinking? So I think I hear some unspoken conversations and find ways to bring those into the light. I am in the process of mastering sweaty conversations. I am nowhere near mastering them at all. Again, if you haven't had a sweaty conversation in the last month, are you really doing your job as a philanthropist? So yeah, I would say my ability to understand my audience and the ability to hear their stories.
Speaking of success, how do you define that word? What does success mean to you?
There are a number of different ways to define success. I have some non-blood related family in Europe, Success means being able to see them when I want to. Success also means that when I shuffle off this mortal coil, that there is a network left behind. Success means having a conversation that changes someone, and that someone might be me, someone might be someone else. I often take what's already there on the table and repackage it and present it as something else, simply because people are used to seeing things just one way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, but have you considered doing it this way? And so they'll go, oh my gosh. And it's their own it's their own stuff that I'm just swirling around and then going, yeah. And so I think that's successful too, when you help people see their own, hey, watch this. When you help people see their own stories and the beauty of their own stories, that is success.
Absolutely. To date, what would you say is your greatest high or your biggest win?
My greatest high, my biggest win. So one of them was being on stage and really understanding that I was part of a larger circuit. I've talked a little bit about this before, in that when the sum of the parts come together, and they're so much greater. And it's not just mine though, because as I mentioned, the audience has to be with you. The pit has to be with you. The chorus has to be with you. Being part of that it's indescribable. The first time I wrote something that didn't have to do with singing, and my dad said, "I'm so proud of you." That was a pretty big win too. He's always been proud of me, to be clear, always, whatever I do. But this was the first time it was not a singing related thing for many years.
Beautiful. Donita, what would you say is one of the most important things you've learned in your life? And what was your life like before you learned it? And what was your life like after learning it?
It comes back to stories. Again, it always comes back to stories. It comes back to conversation. I used to think that I needed a lot of attention. And I would go about it in a way that was not true to who I am, true to what I was. And what I realized was that I did not need attention, but my ideas did. And so finding moments that I was able to take myself out of the equation was really such a great lesson, because that is more me, right? Like I said, working myself out of a job is the most beautiful thing. And so now the defining that I am not looking for like accolades or attaboys or attagirls. Just if I'm saying something that you don't really understand, ask me questions until you do understand it, because I guarantee you that there's something in there that, and I think a lot of people struggle with that.
For sure. I would agree with you 100%. What does the word empowerment mean to you?
Being able to change your own reality.
I love that. Okay, we're going to jump into a little rapid fire section here. So the next grouping of questions just be 1, 2, 3, 4 word answer type thing, okay?
Yep.
How would you describe yourself in one word?
Curious.
If you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
Community.
If you could teach the world one thing, what would it be?
Patience.
That is a very tough lesson. And I think that's key for entrepreneurship. I think that's one of the biggest skill sets for entrepreneurship is patience. As an artist, you would know that. It is, patience is key.
And it's so hard. I want patience and I want it now.
Yeah, exactly. What is one thing you love about yourself that is not related to your physical appearance?
My brain. It is a carousel in there.
If you're writing your autobiography, what would the title be?
Everything I needed to know about the business world I learned on the opera stage.
I love it. That concludes our rapid fire section. Now back to our regular scheduled program. I threw in a bonus question that I did not send you ahead of time.
Oh.
If other people could use 3 words to describe you, what would you want those 3 words to be?
You leave somebody with a lot of questions. That word, whatever that word is, that would be the word I would want.
Okay.
Questioner? No.
Questioner.
Thought provoker?
Yes, thought provoker.
Thought provoker. 3 words. Joyful. And loved.
Beautiful. Who in your life has had the biggest impact on you and why?
It's everybody. I mean, like, I don't know that I have my own personality. I think I have put a patchwork quilt together of all of the people. I have so many voices in my head, Brad. And different ones pop up at different times. There's Warren Jones going, when you're going up, go. My mother saying comparisons are odious. My sister being like the kindest person in the world. I'm an amalgam of folks.
Patchwork of quilts. I love it.
Oh my gosh. If you meet anybody in my life, you will say, oh yeah, that's where she stole that from. That's where she got that from.
An amalgamation of many personalities.
Oh yeah. I'm a Gemini. On the cusp of Cancer. I don't know what those things mean really, but I say that to people who do study, who are big into astrology, and they start backing away from me very quietly. They're like, you got too many people in there.
It's all on that carousel in your head.
The circus music runs constantly.
What aspect of your personality do you think has been the most helpful in your career?
Humor? But that makes it sound too clown-like, I think.
No. I don't think so. Humor is an important part of life. We need to laugh. People take life way too fucking serious.
Yes. Oh, you know what? It's being able to laugh in some of the most painful times.
What is one lesson your career has taught you that you think everybody should learn at some point in their life?
Listen to me.
Listen to Donita when she speaks.
Yes, and also listen to yourself. Grow that voice inside you. You can't you can't just be like, oh, I have this gut and I can just follow my gut. Yes, and you have to build on that as well. You have to
trust your intuition. You have to build that trusting of your
trust your intuition, yes, and also check to make sure that your intuition is leading you down the right path. Look at those choices when you have made them and go, let me do a little after action review on that one.
Yeah. If you could step into my shoes, what question would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask you?
This is a pretty comprehensive list. Let me be clear about that.
Thank you. I received that.
I would say, do you find joy every day?
Okay. Go ahead. Tell us.
I find joy. Sometimes it's really hard, but sometimes it is, oh, there's this little birdie that is tweeting and yay. Sometimes it is, wow, I helped somebody fix a relationship, or not fix. I don't fix anybody's relationship. I have helped people find the questions that they can ask themselves and each other.
Thought provoker.
Pardon?
Thought provoker.
Thought provoker. Yeah. It is something, sometimes joy comes naturally, and sometimes you have to search it out. And it is buried under a bunch of crap. You have to get rid of some of the crap, throw out some of the crap from the box, and then be like, oh, Joy, there you are. Hey, how you doing, girl? All right. Nice to see you again. What you got to teach me today?
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah. Find that joy. Find the joy.
What is your why?
Because I love this planet, and we have to find a way that we become a part of it and not an adversary to it.
What is one of your biggest failures or teachable moments, and what did you learn from it?
Oh, God, I fail all the time. And I think that's the big lesson. Yeah. Failure is not a bad word. It is like when you're doing research, a lot of times you have to shut down avenues of inquiry before you find the one that works. Mm-hmm. And that's what failure does for you. It allows you to find more opportunities. Yeah. I've not come in when I'm supposed to on a stage in front of 3,000 people. Oh, that was not good. I've said things that the sarcasm font doesn't exist yet. Sometimes I've said things that I think may have gone over badly. But I think the lesson I would want to learn from that question is that if you wallow in the failure, you will never find the opportunity that it created. Mm-hmm. And that sounds so pedantic, but it's true.
Mm-hmm. A friend of mine says we need to learn to make friends with failure. She did a TEDx talk. That was the topic of her talk. And she's right, because failure teaches us. That's how we learn in life. And failure is a good thing because you learn from it. I think the only failure is giving up. Mm-hmm. That's it. Everything else is a lesson.
It depends what you're giving up.
True. Sometimes you have to know when it's time.
Yeah. The letting go.
Yeah.
The letting go of it all. But failure also helps you define that, right?
True.
When I was a resident director in graduate school, one of the things that we were taught as part of residential life is that if something makes you uncomfortable, speak out, because a lot of times the folks under your charge will not have yet found their voices. And so I did that a lot. I would call out, call in, whatever. And one of my boys came to me one time and he was like, "Oh my God, Donita, you have so many opinions and you don't let anybody ever have another one." And I'm like, oh, whoa. And that hit me. He was 18. What are you going to do? And he'd found somebody in authority that he could, but I thought about that a long time, and it showed back up years later when there's a woman named Jairus Dixon who had given a presentation, and she asked the room, "In what ways do you stand in the way of other people's leadership?" And I was mad. I'm like, I don't stand in anybody's way. I'm trying to fight for my own. Oh, dear. I get angry very often, and my anger often shuts down other things in the room. Asking yourself how and if you're standing in the path of other people's leadership is a huge question. Ask yourself.
If you had the opportunity to sit down and have a 1-hour conversation with one woman, any woman in the world, who would it be and why?
Again, it would be an amalgam. And I know that's a cop-out. But I think it would be with my ancestors, that line of people, that line of women especially, who, what did they want for me? What did they want for my mom? What did they want for my sister? Are we doing right by them? Because I think leading me to where I am now it's been a struggle, it's been a journey, but it's been full of joy as well. So yeah, ancestors.
If you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice, what would that piece of advice be?
Stay fit. That would be one. And learn everything you can about the tax code. Honestly, as an artist.
Lastly, if you were to deliver your last 30-second speech to the world, your tribe, your people, your corner of the world, what would that last 30 seconds sound like? What words of wisdom would you impart?
Your story matters.
That's it. The end.
That's it.
Beautiful. Donita, thank you so much for being here with me today, for taking and making the time to chat with me. I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of our conversation. Laughs, inspiration, all of it. I love it. You are a beautiful soul. So thank you. I am so grateful to be connected to you and to have you as a member of the Empowerography community. Thank you for all that you do and all that you are.
Thank you so much for being a thought provoker on your own. And this has been a pleasure. Please do pass on my apologies to your next call. I am verbose, and that's another thing. Take the time it takes.
Yeah, exactly. Just roll with it. That's it.
Yeah.
Absolutely agreed. Thank you so much, Donita. Once again, my name is Brad Welsh, host of your Empowerography podcast. Today, my guest has been Donita Volkwijn. She is an opera singer, a philanthropist, and the Senior Director of Member Engagement at Philanthropy New York. I appreciate you. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you, Brad. This has been just delightful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to this podcast. If you haven't yet, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share with all your friends. You can find me at visuphoria.ca. Follow me on Instagram at Empowerography Podcast and on Facebook at Empowerography. Please join me next time for another inspirational story from yet another amazing woman.